In July 1721, the reach of the state was defined by the speed of print. News arrived with the heavy strike of an iron press. This edition of the American Weekly Mercury, printed in Philadelphia, captures an empire facing a systemic crisis at its center while maintaining its daily governance on the frontier. The lead story from London details Parliament's investigation into the directors of the South Sea Company following a massive and coordinated financial fraud. The investigation was accompanied by a sudden and high-profile mortality rate among the government officials tasked with managing the fallout. The collapse of the executive leadership was swift. England lost 2 acting secretaries of state in a period of less than 2 weeks. However, the dispatch reveals a secondary narrative. While the financial center in London fractured, the administrative machinery across the Atlantic remained operational. In the local Philadelphia section, the paper records an urgent mission by the governor to the Conestoga frontier to secure peace with native nations. This single newspaper illustrates the dual nature of the 18th century British Empire, a chaotic metropolitan center balanced by a pragmatically managed periphery. The House of Lords formally investigated the unhappy turn of affairs regarding public credit, seeking the causes of the market collapse. The Lords identified a fraudulent artifice at the scheme's center. Directors used artificial dividend promises to manipulate and inflate the company's stock price. When the company lacked the cash to fulfill these promises, they attempted to pay investors with the inflated stock itself, a move the Lords declared a notorious fraud. Satirical prints of the era compared the South Sea bubble to a carousel, where speculators chased illusory wealth until the entire mechanism failed. To contain the economic damage, Parliament introduced a legislative fix known as the Bill of Ingrafting. Ingrafting functioned as a forced transfer of capital. The government siphoned the remaining assets from the South Sea Company and merged them into more stable financial entities. The Bank of England served as the primary recipient of this redirected capital stock. The East India Company acted as the second pillar, absorbing the remaining fallout to prevent a total market liquidation. Following the introduction of these measures, the House of Commons adjourned until February 7th, leaving the nation's financial recovery in the hands of these institutional mergers. The government performed a massive structural amputation of the South Sea Company's assets to stabilize the broader national economy. The inquiry then focused on accountability, summoning Sir John Blunt, the grand projector of the scheme, to testify before the House of Lords. Blunt refused to be sworn or answer any interrogatories. He argued he had already provided his testimony to a secret committee in the House of Commons and was not required to repeat it. This refusal triggered an intense debate among the Lords, characterized by bitter reflections on the integrity of those in power. Earl Stanhope rose to defend his colleagues with extreme vehemence, drawing parallels to the history of Rome to justify their actions. Following this intense exertion, Stanhope was immediately seized by a violent headache. Physicians attempted to treat him through cupping, which provided only temporary and minimal relief. The following evening, Stanhope fell into a deep drowsiness. As he turned to receive a medical remedy, he collapsed and was instantly suffocated by a sudden hemorrhage. The leadership crisis deepened as Secretary of State James Craggs contracted smallpox. The dispatch notes the apprehension of the South Sea investigation had already struck a fatal damp upon his spirits. Craggs died on February 16th, coinciding exactly with the moment the secret committee's report was read in the House of Commons. These losses meant that in just 11 days, the British government was deprived of its 2 primary secretaries of state. The South Sea bubble decimated private fortunes and effectively hollowed out the state's executive corps through a combination of physical collapse and fatal infection. Below the high-level political fallout, the dispatch records continued social functioning, including an anonymous act of charity toward debtors in London's Poultry Compter. Each received 7 pounds of beef, a quart of beer, and 4 pence in cash, a highly specific relief effort during a time of national economic scarcity. The paper also catalogs a series of bureaucratic appointments, showing the persistent administrative flow of the empire, despite the metropolitan chaos. It reports the baptism of Prince William Augustus, using the event as a signal of dynastic stability. Colonial administration continued, with Lord Belhaven's appointment to the government of Barbados. Thomas Lechmere was also confirmed as the Surveyor General of the Northern District of America. While the center of the empire faced an unprecedented stress test, its foundational social and bureaucratic gears remained in motion. This operational resilience is most visible when the focus shifts to the local Philadelphia dispatches. The paper records that Pennsylvania's governor, Sir William Keith, led a party of 30 gentlemen on an immediate diplomatic mission. They traveled to the frontier settlement of Conestoga to hold a formal council with representatives of the 5 nations. Their objective was to settle a peace with them as usually, maintaining the vital security of the colonial frontier through direct negotiation. The document presents 2 different modes of governance: a leadership in London struggling for survival, and a provincial government executing essential diplomatic functions on the ground. This single newspaper edition connects the collapse of metropolitan finance with the specific pragmatic actions required to hold the colonial edge.
The Daily Dispatch